الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا متقبلا يا أرحم الراحمين. We continue by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help in these reflections on the lives of the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best of people after the Prophets alayhim salatu wassalam, as he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we are in the episode number 60 in the lives of the Sahaba, and number 43 in the life of Sayyidina Umar himself. As you can see, 43 episodes only about Sayyidina Umar, and still we are talking about some of his achievements. And if you want to encompass and go into details, it will take much more. And we know this is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prophesied about Sayyidina Umar, that his reign and that he will rule, and his rule will be full of achievements and benefits and blessings for the Muslim Ummah. And we are still talking about the conquest of Egypt, and we will conclude today inshallah this great achievement from Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anh, this great event that took place in the year 21 after the migration of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So 21 years after the migration of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Egypt was conquered, and almost half or more of the Byzantine Empire collapsed at the hands of the Muslims. So 21 of the Hijrah, 642 in the Gregorian calendar, right? They say Gregorian calendar. And all historians, they agree that the Romans enslaved the Copts or the Egyptians. This is Muslims and non-Muslim historians, they agree to this. And that Egypt was made like a property, like a farm. As we know, we talk about many of the leaders in the Arab world. We call that they made the country like their farm. So they're exploiting and taking the oil money and everything to their own bank accounts. And we have seen many leaders how the Swiss and the other banks, how they exposed those leaders and the billions that they had in their accounts, while you see their people starving to death and living in areas that lack the basics, the basic infrastructure and the basic needs that a human being deserves. So this is what the Romans made from Egypt. They made it like their farm. It was the main place where they will get all the wheat and all what they need, because it's a huge country. It's very fertile, right? Fertile. It has the Nile River, right? Until now, Egypt, mashallah, is a great country, and especially in agriculture, they're very great. So the Byzantine Empire, and before the Byzantine, the Roman Empire, they exploited Egypt and the Egyptians, and this is agreed upon. And the main reason, by the way, is the difference in the belief. Even though both were Christians, but we know the Romans, they were Catholic, while the Egyptians, they were different, they were Copts. And one of the main differences in their belief or in their aqidah is that the Byzantine or the Romans, they believed in the one nature of Christ, that the divine nature and the human nature, they can be separate, while the Copts, they believe they can never be separate. They are one. So in this issue, they had difference, and this is why the Romans, they enslaved, or they made it very tight on the Copts, and as we will see, they took many of their churches. Their main patriarch was hiding for 13 years. And who said that? Their Pope, who just passed away a couple of years ago. I watched him in video with his words. In Arabic he's speaking. He's mentioning this. I'm going to mention to you his words, inshallah. So this is how the situation before the Muslims came. Many of those Copts, they started hiding their identity. Even also today I watched a Coptic priest. I don't know if they call him priest anyway. He was talking about that era, and he was mentioning that one of their patriarchs called Ignatius, he was pretending to be a worker who would fix windows and doors and these things. So he will walk in the streets of Alexandria and he will call, anyone needs to fix anything, here's a worker, I can fix everything. So, and his people, the Copts, they know him. So he will enter to their houses under that pretext or excuse so that he will do the rituals, the Christian rituals for them. Who's mentioning this? One of their priests in video in Arabic, he's mentioning this. So they were not having their religious freedom. They were deprived of their religious freedom. Their patriarch was hiding and was disguising himself in order to fulfill some of their rituals. Then, of course, we will see how Muslims treated those Copts and how the life of that country completely changed. This Pope, his name is Al-Anba Shnoda Thalith, the Pope Shnoda III. The one, not the current Pope of the Coptic Church, the one before him. I know him, and he visited our foundation in Damascus, and he gave a speech in front of our Sheikh, may Allah have mercy on him. He said, the 32nd patriarch of the Coptic Church, called Benjamin, Pope Benjamin, he was hiding for 13 years, fearing the Romans, because he was afraid that the Romans will kill him. Until the Muslims came and conquered Egypt, Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As, who was the leader of that conquest, he started searching and got to know about the area he is in, and he gave them complete security and safety and told him, come and you are completely safe. And he got him and he gave him all the churches that the Romans took over from their denomination and gave him his full rights back. That is Islam, that we have to be very proud of, that we have to educate our kids and our children. As I always mention, dear brothers and sisters, you can learn Aqidah from Aqidah books, and you can learn these morals in a theoretical way from some books. But when you learn it in the practice of the best of people, that is the best way. That is the best way to learn about your religion. This is why I urge you to bring your kids, or at least let them watch these episodes about these great people. Every week we have like 20 minutes, maximum 30 minutes every week, that you see how much pride they can have, how much love for their religion, how much knowledge about their religion. These people now, they claim, Muslims, Muslims oppressed others, they spread Islam by the sword, this. Well, it seems you were doing it. It seems the picture is opposite, and we know this very well. We know when the Crusaders entered our country what they did, and the massacres they committed. And we know when Salah ad-Din entered Al-Quds what he did. We know history speaks, and their own historians, they speak the facts. So we are the people of peace, and we are the people of religious freedom, truly and in reality and in practice, not in words. But unfortunately, you know, the media, and this age when we are weak and we are far from our history, the facts are being reversed. So we have to educate ourselves again and our communities. Another, as I told you about this Ignatius, he was pretending that he works to fix windows and doors, and this is how he used to go to the houses of his followers and his community to fulfill the Christian rituals that they used to believe in. 3,500 or 4,000 people, then supported by another 4,000, 8,000. 8,000 people to a country that has millions of people. Millions. And this is why Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, he did not approve in the beginning the conquest of Egypt. This is a huge country, and to reach that country you have the desert of Sinai. May Allah give relief to all the oppressed people and the wronged people in Sinai. Nowadays there are some wars. May Allah give support to the oppressed ones, whomever they might be. They have to take their way in all of that desert to reach the cities where the Romans were in Egypt. So it is a big hazard, it's a big risk, and only with 4,000. And the Romans, they have been there for hundreds of years, at least 900 years. The Romans and the Byzantines, they were there. So means they're well established with their military, with their strength, with their castles, especially as we will see in Alexandria. It was not easy. It was under siege for more than 1 year. Alexandria itself. More than 1 year. The other cities, they were much easier, but Alexandria, because it was on the beach, on the coast, it has a lot of castles, and the Romans, they used to bring some support through the sea, so it was not easy. Sayyiduna Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu anhu, he made an agreement. As we mentioned last time, he was moving city by city, town by town, and the Copts, they already heard about the morals and the character of the Muslims and how they treat the people of the land. So they started helping the Muslims against the Romans because they were oppressed, and they heard about the character, the traits of the Muslim, the akhlaq, the morals of the Muslims. They started helping them. This is not Muslim historians. These are the Coptic historians mentioning this. And also at the same time, the Romans, they were really afraid of the Muslims because they heard about Heracles, who was defeated in Sham, in Palestine, in Al-Quds, in Syria, and he was defeated there with his might and his strength. He was defeated by the Muslims. So the soldiers, the Roman soldiers, also they were afraid of the Muslims. So the people were happy, and the Roman soldiers were afraid of the Muslims. Iskandar Saifi, one of the Christian historians, in one of his books about Egypt, he says, the conditions that Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu anhu, that he made with Al-Muqawqis, the leader of Egypt, it was that the Copt must have their full freedom in their religion, and they have to pay the tax, the jizya for the Muslims. Why? Because the Muslims will protect them, and we will see that we will read some of the points of the agreement that Sayyidina Amr made with them, and we will see that if someone doesn't want to stay, he is free to go to the lands of the Romans. Allahu Akbar. Who will do this? Who does this among all those empires who conquered our lands? Who did this? Who allowed people to go freely to wherever they want? They never did that. We know what they did. We know the Inquisition in Spain, right? We know how they forced the Muslims, either you leave Islam or you will be killed. We know all these facts, but we just need to remember them. Another one, also non-Muslim historian, he's saying, as for the Arabs, they came to liberate the Copts from the Byzantine shackles, because their position towards the people of the book was that they, or the people of Dhimma, means the people of the pledge that Muslims gave, their position towards them was honorable and tolerant and kind. And it was proved in the Umari time, the time of Sayyidina Umar, that guaranteed for the Copts their full religious freedom in a way that they never felt or they never had under the Byzantine occupation. These are their words. These are their words. Another one of them, he said that animosity between the Egyptians and the Romans was at its peak, especially when Caesar, he expelled all the Copts from the governmental positions, and he humiliated them, and that made the Copts be against the Romans and support the Muslims. Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu anhu, as every Muslim leader, before you go and fight right away, you try to make peace. Because we don't war, and we don't love war, right? And always Allah tells us, وَإِن جَنَحُوا لِلسَّلْمِ فَجْنَحْ لَهَا وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. If they return to peace or they accept peace right away, you have to take the peaceful ways. We're not people who are running after worldly gains or blood or in any way. So he started discussing with him and talking to him, and he told him, give me some days. He said, I'm going to give you 3 days to discuss. Then they did not accept to submit to the Muslims, and the fight took place between the Romans and the Muslims. Then, of course, city after city, Sayyiduna Amr ibn al-As was moving, and we're not going to go to the details of every city, but most of the cities was very easy to conquer. As we mentioned, the people of the land are sympathizing and supporting the conquerors, while the Romans, they were afraid, and many of them, some of them ran away, and Alexandria was the main castle for them, in which there was a huge battle, and at the end, Muslims were able to conquer all of Egypt, and they even moved to Libya. They moved to Libya, so Egypt and parts of Libya today, it was all conquered in the time of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu through Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu. Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab did not want this, and Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As, he realized the strategic position of Egypt. It is like the reserve for the Roman or for the Byzantine Empire. It's the reserve, it's the food, like storage for them. It's very strategic in its position, in its resources. So this is why Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As, he wanted to take over, because he doesn't want to be attacked from the back. You know, the Muslims conquered Sham, now Egypt from their back. So he wanted to make sure the Muslims are safe. And this is why he took the risk, and Sayyidina Umar sent him a message or sent him a letter, and Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As did not open that letter until he reached Al-Arish, which is at the Egyptian-Palestinian border today. When he opened that message, that letter, Sayyidina Umar said to him, if you did not enter Egypt yet, go back, don't go. Sayyidina Umar always was afraid for the Muslims. He rejected that the Muslims go into the sea. He rejected completely, Sayyidina Umar, in his time. He never approved it. He was afraid for the Muslims, for the life of every single Muslim. In the time of Sayyidina Uthman, after a lot of discussions and proofs from Sayyidina Muawiyah, Sayyidina Uthman accepted with condition. He told Sayyidina Muawiyah, if you want to go on the sea, then you have to take your wife with you, and you should never force any Muslim to go with you. Then he did. And that was how the first Muslim Navy force started, in the time of Sayyidina Uthman. Sayyidina Umar also here, even though it's not about the sea, but because it's big desert and a small number of Muslims, he did not want. But he said, if you did not enter, don't enter. If you became already in Egypt, say Bismillah, tawakkal Allah, put your trust in Allah and go. So Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As, he said, I'm already in Egypt. He continued. The agreement he made with the people of Egypt, similar to the agreement Sayyidina Umar gave to the people of Palestine, to the people of Al-Quds when he peacefully conquered Al-Quds. He said, this is what Amr ibn al-As gave to the people of Egypt from security, for their souls, for their religion, for their property, for their churches, for their crosses. And we see this word in many of the Muslim agreements. It seems making it clear even for the lay Muslim people that even you see this cross for these people, you cannot attack them, you cannot take over or break their property even if you don't agree with them. Their crosses, their righteous ones and their wicked ones. You should not approach them, should not violate their rights, and they should pay the jizya because they cannot participate with the Muslim army. So the Muslim army protects them, so they have to pay some money as tax, which is bearable, which is something they can pay, and those who cannot pay and cannot work, they will not be overburdened, as we know from the life of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu and the law of Islam. Then he says, if any of them, فَإِنْ أَبَى أَحَدٌ مِّنْهُمْ أَن يُجِيبْ رُفِعَ عَنْهُ مِنَ الْجِزْيَةِ بِقَدَرِهَا. If some of them, they don't want to stay, they can leave. They can leave, and whoever stays with the Egyptians, even from the Romans, وَمَنْ دَخَلَ فِي صُلْحِهِمْ مِنَ الرُّومِ وَالنُّوبِ فَلَهُ مَا لَهُمْ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَلَيْهِ. Even those soldiers of the Romans who were fighting the Muslims, if you want to stay with the Egyptians, then he has what they has, so he has the same rights and duties. That is Islam. That is Islam. And whoever wants to leave, he is safe, he is amin until he reaches the place he wants, and until he goes out of our controlled areas. This is the pledge, a pledge from Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Khalifa, the leader of the believers, and some other details, and it was witnessed by Az-Zubayr and Abdullah and Muhammad. Abdullah and Muhammad, the two children of Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu, and Wardan and others. So he also mentioned, the book mentioned some of the main Muslim figures who witnessed that. In that conquest, Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As, and now if you go to Egypt, to Cairo specifically, there's a huge masjid called Masjid Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu anhu. In that, there's a place called Al-Fustat. He built that city, and when he built the masjid, of course, many Muslims started coming there. Many hundreds and thousands of the Egyptians accepted Islam. Thousands of the Egyptians accepted Islam because they saw that how these people are giving them their freedom, respecting them. And they got to know about the beliefs of Islam, the pure beliefs, the belief of Tawheed, the belief that has no mysteries, no secrets, no confusions. They got to know about Islam and its beliefs and the character of its people. So they accepted Islam, just like as we see now, so many Muslims everywhere, so many non-Muslims, they accept Islam. How? There's no sword. Where's the sword that is working? Where's the sword that is making Islam the fastest growing religion in the world today? Even though we are sleeping as Muslims. Even though we are sleeping, but Islam is the fastest growing religion. Why? Because it is the truth. Because its belief is clear. Its oneness is clear. Its code of morals and ethics, etc. It's clear for those who are really seeking the truth. Because the Quran is the eternal miracle. It has been the only book that has been preserved. The book that has scientific miracles, numerical miracles, many types of miracles. So this is how thousands of Egyptians accepted Islam. So now we need to expand the masjid. Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As, he wanted to expand the masjid. There was the house of a Coptic woman. So he said, please, we want to expand our place of worship, and this is some money, and please sell us your house. She rejected. He said, please, I'll give you whatever you want, whatever money you want. You know, you cannot move, the masjid is already there, but she can live anywhere. She rejected. But he took her house by force. And he gave her money. But she did not want. And she complained to the Khalifa. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, she was able to reach him and she complained. What did Sayyidina Umar do? He rejected. He said, you cannot do that. So what religion is this? What religion of this? How will not people love this religion? And we mentioned the story about when the Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As's son, when his son had a race with the Coptic man. We mentioned that story also. How the justice of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu was amazing justice. So this small number of the Muslims, it showed that they were on the truth in front of these millions of people, how their religion spread, how they conquered. That is something people of the Coptic belief, they admitted. And one of them, Dr. Jack Tager, he says, we found that the Copts did not know the reality about the Arabs before entering Egypt. But when they got to know about them, they received them as liberators. As liberators, people who liberated them. And they reduced the taxes that the Romans used to take from them. As you mentioned, Egypt was like all the crops, right? Crops and the resources will go to where? To Byzantium. To, what's Byzantium today? Istanbul, Constantinople. It was first Byzantium, then what was called Constantinople, then today Istanbul. That was their main city. So all of the resources, it will go to their leaders and kings and whatever. And the people of the land, they will be suffering, right? They will be deprived. Just like now we see many countries. The leaders, they steal the resources and they put it in the banks of Switzerland and Sweden, etc. And the people are starving. That is the same thing. Many privileges the Christians of Egypt got, and they never experienced such freedom and such prosperity like the one that they felt and they lived under the Muslim rule. Despite all this nice treatment, despite the fact that many Copts accepted Islam, some of them did not. And the proof until this day, we find couple of millions of Coptic Christians in Egypt. So Muslims kept them over all these. So Egypt never lived under any non-Muslim rule since that time until now, right? Except for the British colonization for some years, right? Then they liberated themselves. In all of those areas until now, Christians are still there. Their churches are still there. So anyone who claimed that Islam spread by this, okay, here is a real living proof that no one can deny. Same thing in Egypt, in Syria, same thing in Iraq, same thing in Palestine. All these people of different faiths living as neighbors, as citizens of the same country in the Muslim countries, and Muslims never forced anyone and never violated the rights of anyone, as now many non-Muslims do against Muslims. Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As, and we'll finish with this amazing statement from him, talking to his people. He's saying, radiyallahu anhu, O people, all praise and thanks be to Allah who made the victory for Muslims. والله عظيم حمى بالإسلام ظهورا وتكفل به طريق رجوعنا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most great who protected us by Islam and honored us by Islam. But be careful. إياكم أن تظنوا أن كل ما نرغب فيه قد تحقق. Never feel or never think that all what we want has been achieved. And don't be deceived by this victory. We still have a long way waiting for us. And we have to stick to patience and obedience to the leaders. And these people, we have to show them that we are soldiers of peace. فَسَيَعْلَمُ الْقَوْمُ هُنَا أَنَّنَا جُنُودُ سَلَامٍ. Let these people know that we are soldiers of peace. لَا نَبْغِي فَسَادًا فِي الْأَرْضِ بَلْ نُصْلِحُهَا. We never seek corruption on earth, but we seek to rectify and build the earth and be the best of the followers of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is how Egypt became one of the greatest fortresses and the greatest castles of Islam until this day. And that is one of the prophecies of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who mentioned in one of the hadith narrated by Imam Ibn Hibban. He said, you will come to some people, he means the Copts, take care of them. They will be strength for you, وَبَلَاغٌ إِلَىٰ عَدُوِّكُمْ, and they will help you against your enemies. Allahu Akbar. This is another miracle from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's exactly what happened. He said, take care of them. They will be a strength for you and support for you against your enemies. Against the Romans, means against the Romans. That is exactly what happened. And we have from Egypt huge numbers of scholars, of leaders, of scientists, of people that have served Islam for all of these centuries until now. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help our brothers and sisters in Egypt and our brothers and sisters everywhere. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala liberate all people who are under occupation or oppression or dictatorships. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them support against their dictators and against their occupiers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to follow the path of those great peace soldiers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to follow their path and help us to follow their footsteps. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give relief to our brothers and sisters who are suffering everywhere. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.